My name is Kisa, and I work with MP Services. And if you're not familiar, we provide free services that are funded by a grant to empower minority women. We provide free entrepreneurship training and resources. We provide networking. We have a platform where we provide support for minority businesses. We also provide one-on-one consulting and other resources. I encourage you to follow us at MP Services on all social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram. And I encourage you to complete the survey at the end. We always want to do better, and we want to make sure that we're providing what you need. So I misspoke. We're going to send the survey out tomorrow. So we encourage you to complete the survey. And I want to thank you for joining, because we have Melissa who is here to speak to you about something that's very important. And I hope that you gain some helpful tips to help us. And Melissa, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Kisa. So first I'm going to start with just an informal conversation and talk about myself. So my name is Melissa Muhammad. I am an international tax attorney. And everybody always says, what does that mean? So international tax attorney is a person who helps multinational corporations, or help, in my case, US businesses to expand around the world. And I have lived on 3 continents and worked in 50 countries. I have trained tax officials in 153 nations. I absolutely love traveling and living around the world. I feel very fortunate to have done that. And as a part of my business last year, I started the Black and Global Business Network, which is a network for helping Black businesses to start, grow, and expand around the world. And so as I started to build that business, or like many of us, you build several businesses over the years, I experienced a lot of what we're going to talk about tonight, and being a present partner and parent while building a business. Wow, we have a lot more people that are coming on now. So I'm going to be working to let people in as we're talking, but I really wanted to, so I prepared a PowerPoint presentation, but then my spirit said, let me gauge, because I really want to have a fireside chat, a real conversation that we can all walk away from with some tools that can help us to be able to reduce our level of stress and really understand how you can create a lifestyle where taking care of your family really, really is a recipe for self-care. So can you all, anybody come off mute and tell me about yourself, where you're from and what your business is or what your service is? So we have Charlotte and Sherry and Alan and Stephanie.
Hi, this is Alan. Or Stephanie, if you want to go. Looks like you kind of jumped on. You can go ahead, Stephanie. I'll wait till you're done.
Thank you. My name is Stephanie Johnson, and I am the founder and CEO of Simmons Johnson Consulting, LLC. We're headquartered outside of Houston, Texas, in a little town called Richmond. And we are a state of Texas licensed CPA firm.
Okay.
And we provide management consulting services in the disaster recovery arena at the federal, state, and local levels.
So you get the contracts from the government, you do the government procurement?
I get contracts I'm working on getting contracts from the government, and I also subcontract from large companies as well.
Okay,
So
all
I'm in both arena.
right. How long have you done this with your business?
My company will be 5 years old in March.
Okay.
March 31st or 30th of next year, we will be 5 years old. And it started off with just me. And that was the plan, to be a solopreneur. Then COVID hit in 2020. And as a result of COVID, I went from just being myself to now having a couple of contracts in hand, no, a couple of active contracts with 3 or 4 coming up as well. So it's not just me anymore. I now have about 7 people working for me, and additional contracts coming on in February, which will be an international one. As a matter of fact, it's going to be in Spain,
Oh,
with
wow.
more possibly in Italy and Bulgaria.
Oh,
And then
wait, so
also-
so you're selling your services into those countries?
well, I'm teaming with a large company, a large accounting firm.
Okay, Stephanie, we gonna have to stop. You gotta reach me later. I'm doing a trade mission to Spain, Portugal, and Italy. So you have to follow up with me after that. So
Yes, we
can-
do, because there's
So-
another aspect of me that does international and mission work. So
Well, for me, it's business. It's getting contracts in other countries.
Yes.
So I would love to tell you about. I'm working
Okay.
with the Commerce Department on putting together trade missions, looking for Black businesses to take on a mission to Spain, Portugal, and Italy. But I digress. So okay, but
okay,
yes, let's
we'll
talk.
contact each other.
Okay, sounds good. All right, Alan, tell us about your. Wait, Stephanie, are you married? Children?
Yes, married 34 years.
Okay.
One son,
Okay.
one child, one adult child
Mhm.
who's married, and we have 2 granddaughters.
Okay, awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Alan, tell us about yourself.
All right, okay. Alan Bean, and I'm a contractor, and I also do consulting, construction management, and I primarily work with other Black-owned businesses, and the type of construction I do is like infrastructure, bridges, roads, things like that. And my background is in engineering, and now I'm pivoting more into entrepreneurship from the standpoint of being a developer. So interested in doing what they call the missing middle housing, 2, 3, 4 plexes, trying to do stuff so that people can gain access to housing. And so that's kind of where I'm moving now. Have one grown child from a previous marriage, and that's pretty much it. I reside in the Pacific Northwest, probably about as far away from the East Coast. I'm like right up the street from this small company called Nike. So I'm
Okay.
in Oregon. And then I also have an office in Columbus, Ohio as well. So yeah, no, just looking to learn from everybody and get some tips and tricks, to learn and, and improve myself and share with others, so we can kind of learn and grow together. Thanks.
Sounds good. So tell us about your family. You just have one child, you married?
Yeah, one child, not married anymore.
Okay.
And he's doing pretty good. He's in China right now on it's a Schwarzman Scholar.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a Schwarzman Scholar. His mom is from Kenya, so he grew up, multilingual. And so when he was in high school here in Oregon with me, he decided, well, he pretty much grew up with me since he was 5. He decided he wanted to learn another language. He went to an international baccalaureate school and he learned Mandarin or Chinese.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He was also fortunate to be able to go to NYU, but he went to NYU's Abu Dhabi campus.
Okay.
So the good in it is the good thing is he's doing quite well and he's tapped into a whole other network. The bad news is we don't get to see each other that much because he's always overseas. And oftentimes I'll travel to go see him. Like I went hung out with him in Abu Dhabi and Dubai and Oman and places like that.
Mhm.
I don't think I would make the trip over to China this time, but he'll be coming back finally for a law school. So
Oh, good. Where's he going?
he doesn't know because he took a gap year. He's just going to go to the best school he can get into. He did really good on the entrance exam.
Okay.
He did really good in school. So hopefully he'll get someplace good. But the one thing is I was an entrepreneur in training when I was raising him. And so the good thing about him is that he's going to school because it fits his plan. He's
Mhm.
not going to work for nobody. He's not going to be on the corporate plantation or any of that stuff. He's going to do things to help him in his plan to kind of help out disenfranchised people and people, in Kenya and other places, to kind of take advantage of some of the opportunities that they should have, that he's just trying to create opportunities for other people. So he's more of, I guess, a social entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But he picked it up though. And so like I said, I was in training. I always exposed him to it. And he took it and just, thank goodness he took it to another level and he figured out a way to do it where he's helping people as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it involves travel. But anyway, he'll be back soon, I hope.
Awesome. So thank you all. Thank you all. Is there anybody else that wants to share before we get started? So listen, I need to see people for us to have a conversation. So anybody that's just joining us now, my name is Melissa Muhammad, and what we're going to be talking about tonight or this afternoon is really an informal conversation about how to balance out building your business or building your empire while you are and having a family. And I'm going to share my screen. And let's see if can you guys see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So, so what we're talking about is how to be a present partner and parent while building a successful business, a recipe for self-care. And I am married. I've been married for 20 years. And if I can be married for 20 years, it's hope for everybody. Let me just say it like that. And I'm happily married, which is another level unto itself. And then I am a later in life parent because I have not one, not two, but three little babies. And they are 4, 6, and 8. So I am definitely in the middle of having a career. My career has spanned a couple of decades building a business. And my husband and I have built a business for about 15 years. And now I'm building my own business. So these are some of the things that I found in the process as a recipe for self-care. So building a business and or a career, it's a lot of work. And I wanted to get an idea, how many hours do you work on your job or your business or your side hustle? Somebody tell me how many hours you put in there.
Most of my waking hours, if not actually at the computer, then sitting thinking about it, sitting planning about it, a lot.
A lot. 50, 60, 7 days, how many?
Okay, so far, so every day, okay, during the week, it's Monday through Friday, I could easily be in my office from 8 o'clock to 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then I work on Saturdays. I do something on Saturdays. I do something on Sundays, but not as much as I do during the week.
Okay. All right. Sherry, can you tell us how many hours are you working? Are you able to let us know? Okay, yeah, you can put it in the chat. So, Susan says she's working 40 Monday to Saturday, 40 hours or so. Okay. Anybody else in the chat can tell us how many hours you're putting in? 30 hours. Okay. All right.
I probably put in anywhere between 40 to 50. I don't work on Saturdays though,
Mhm.
on that day, or if I do, it's to, to help somebody or to do something for the community. I guess I won't call that. So I don't work. But Monday through Friday and Sunday, I probably put in anywhere from 4 to 10 hours. Yeah.
A day. Okay. So being a present in your business and being present in your business and at work, but absent at home, that's a common complaint that you hear for empire builders. People who are in the process of building something, oftentimes, you are in a position where you love what you're doing, right? So for some people, it's by demand. And then for some people, you have a job and a business. And then other times it's just so exciting what you're doing. And you end up spending a lot of time at work or a lot of time in your business, but you are accused of being absent from home, even when you're physically present, right? So Kat says it used to be 70, but now it's down to 40. Okay, we got to talk about that. So here is a real, and Alan, I'm so glad you're on here because we can talk, you can give us a male perspective. The Superwoman syndrome. This American women are the most overwhelmed women I have ever met in any country I have lived in or traveled to. And when I've lived in Asia, Africa, and Europe. And so being in those countries, women are quite different and they're building businesses and they have families, but American women I find to be quite overwhelmed and quite stressed. And what a commonality that I find is the Superwoman syndrome, where you're working a job, you have the business, you're taking care of your husband, your children, your family, your friends, your business, and then you about 100, way at the back of the list. And so many times it might not be your intention to be a superwoman. It might just be your expression, how you come across. But the difficulty that you have is the difference between what you intend and what you express. That's somebody else's perception. And then sometimes when you're in that position, you have to ask yourself, how are you being perceived while you're building this business? In your business, in your family, and with yourself. And does this create stress in this way? When you're 85 or 90 years old, what is it that you want your family to say about you? You have one intention. Your intention is you want to leave a great legacy for the business that you're building. You want to do awesome things in the world. But the difficulty is you haven't taken the time to find out how your family perceives what you're doing. You have no idea. You just assume that they may think that is great. You just assume that they may agree with you that is awesome, but you haven't taken the time to find out. And oftentimes that big gap creates a perception that oftentimes leaving people in a very disconcerted position. So being a superwoman is something that we oftentimes have to work against, Alan. And in this way, you'll find women, more so than men that I've encountered, that will attempt to do everything. And then when you talk to an American woman about, do you have a maid or a cleaning person? Now, this may have been a few years back. They will say something like, no. And how do I know that? I'm gonna tell you how that was me. I'm gonna give you an example. So everywhere I travel, people always ask about the US and what it's like in being in America because they find it quite fascinating. And I never forget, at every place that I go, all of the women always talk about having help. And so I always felt strange, just like, oh, that's kind of having help, having somebody to come in and clean my house, having somebody to come in and do domestic stuff. That's not what we do. We do it all ourselves. And finally, one person sat down with me and she asked me the question. She said, Melissa, why do American women feel that they have to do everything by themselves? You all are the only person, because there were 7 American people who were there, and all of us had the same sentiments. Every single one of us. We were from different places in the countries, different states in the countries, but I was right along with those women. All of us felt that having someone to come in and help us was, it was just something that we do not do. Has anybody ever felt that way? Has anybody ever felt that way? Anybody want to chime in? Nobody. So everybody else has help and they're okay with having help.
You want to hear the male
Yeah, I want to hear male perspective too.
Yeah, no, so, and I'm not married, but partner.
Mhm.
So, but and this is something that kind of reigns true in that you kind of have to decide stuff up front and kind of share your calendar and be open with what you're doing and how you're doing it and how involved it's going to be and stuff like that. As long as there's that communication, you get these misunderstandings out, because nobody should feel like they're doing it alone. Otherwise, why have, somebody you're seeing, or a partner or whatever. But oftentimes this doesn't get talked about. So like, I think about it, but you brought out something that it is a problem. You know what I mean? Because you shouldn't feel like your role should be X and X. Your role should be whatever it takes to solve the collective problems. Whether it's with the children or with, something at your work or your job or your school or whatever, it should kind of be brought together like that. Because I think too many people work in silos, because that's, especially Black folk, because a lot of that social engineer stuff, and I don't want to go off too much off on a tangent, it was kind of done to it. It's still there. And we have to recognize that. So it's tough being in an environment where you have to learn to love yourself, because in general, you're not, it's just true. You're hated. And that's coming from the male perspective and working in high pressure construction engineering type things where they really don't want you there, and especially not in a position of leadership. And so, but these are some of the things that when you come home and you have that environment, you want to protect that and have it be nurturing and strengthen each other and grow together. Like a marriage should be an opportunity to get better. Just like with a child, there's things raising a child that I learned about myself I would have never learned if I didn't see a little mini me doing some of the same nonsense that I wish I hadn't done. So anyway, so that's kind of my point.
Yeah. And the nurturing environment and coming home to that, but you have to have a person that has the ability to offer that nurture. You got to have somebody who's in a position who is not constantly stressed, constantly overwhelmed, constantly with a million things on their plate. And, it just was a very interesting dynamic looking at the number of people who have help. So, and I'll give you one last example. I was on a trip in South Africa, and I was in a cab, and the cab driver was talking to me about, the different people that come from different countries that they encounter. And he said the thing that he noticed about American people is that he thinks American people are very selfish. And an example of that is that we don't have maids. And I was like, what do you mean we don't have maids? He said, because here everybody has a maid. And I'm a cab driver, even maids have maids. And I said, so how are we selfish because we don't have maids? And he said, because you would rather hoard the wealth, keep the money to yourself, as opposed to sharing the money with other people in the community by allowing them or giving them the opportunity to help you and reduce your stress. And when I walked away from that conversation with him that day, I really started to change the perspective on how I look at getting help and being a superwoman. And when I came back to the States from that trip, I decided that I no longer wanted to be a superwoman. I decided that I wanted to become a person, a recovering independent woman striving hard for interdependence. So I changed my identity in that moment. Because what you find many times is that your family just doesn't understand. They can't, sometimes you can't make the dinner. Sometimes you miss a game or a performance. Sometimes you have to cancel a vacation. Sometimes you can't make a family reunion. And even though you intend to do all of this, it creates personal stress in your life because you're not able to do that. So in looking at how important it is and how do you reduce this level of stress, the question becomes, this is how important our word is in building relationships. Sometimes we say things that we intend to do, but we fail to keep our word. And if you fail to keep your word in your at work or at your business, you lose your customers or a job. But what we fail to realize a lot of times is it's the same with your family, because we misunderstand sometimes that the family they might love the money or the thing, but what they really, really want is you. What they really want to be next to or close to is you. And the money and the things that you are able to give or acquire, those don't necessarily give the lasting relationship that you want to build. And so as we build businesses, as we create jobs, we have to reshape our thinking to understand that taking steps to build relationships is very, very powerful. We will go to networking conferences. We will learn how to build business relationships. We will go out and work in the community and build relationships. But we fail oftentimes to use the same tools and techniques to build relationships in our home. And when you shift your thinking so that your home becomes your base as opposed to your place, then you start to shift your relationship. Because the truth be told, you can put 1,000% into a job. But trust and believe, if something happens to you and you fall to the wayside, they're going to step right over you to the next person and keep that business moving. So, and it can be the same with your customers. It can be the same with your business. And so as a recipe for your own mindset, for your own peace of mind, when you start to shift your thinking to put your family first and your practice, it relieves a lot of stress. And it doesn't take a lot of tools. I'm going to share some tools with you for how you can do that and make your life a lot easier. So the way to start your journey to self-care, and literally, this is how I think about it. The things that I do for my family and running a business, I set my mind to say my family is like running a business. And the first thing I have to do is keep my word. That's the very first thing you have to learn to do, is to be a person of your word. When you are an A player, and I guarantee you, everybody on this call, you operate at the top of the game. You are an absolute superstar in what you do. When they call your name, the job gets done, and they don't have to call it twice, because that's your brand, that's your self-identity. But at home, you don't put the same level of effort into your brand, into your identity. When you're at home and you're dealing with your family or your spouse, then it can be flexible whether or not you keep your word. Then it can be flexible whether or not you show up. And so what ends up happening is we have to shift our thinking so that it's your characteristic of living up to your word that produces trust, dependability, and earns respect amongst our family and our friends. So when people have no confidence in the word that we give, we can't not build sound and good relationships, because honesty is telling the truth and integrity is living the truth. If you say you're going to do something in your business or at home, it's the same level of priority. It's the absolute same level of priority. And if you want to raise a person, some of you have grandchildren now, but the principle still remains to be the same. If you want to raise a person who keeps their word, first, we have to be people who keep our word. And the best way to form good relationships is to be found living up to your word. that we give and the oath that we give when we say we're going to perform a duty. My niece, when she was 11 years old, she came to stay with me one summer. And she asked me, she kept asking me to do something over and over. And you know, children will ride you. They get on your absolute last nerve, asking you the same thing over and over again. And I finally said to her, listen, I told you that I was going to do that. Why do you keep asking me? Now look at her response to me. She said, well, I guess it's because I'm used to being lied to. Because my mom will say that she's going to do it, but then she doesn't do it. She'll tell me that we're going to go X, Y, and Z on Saturday, but then we don't go. She'll tell me that she's going to get A, B, C, and D for me, but then she doesn't do it. So I know my sister is a wonderful person and she intends to do it. It is her intention when she gives her word, but for her, something else comes up that doesn't necessarily allow her to keep her word. But at work, you better believe that sister is gangbuster because she doesn't miss a beat when she's at work. But at home, she wasn't making the connection between that you have to keep your word with your family in the same way that you keep your word when you're at home. And when we had this conversation about it, she talked to me about the guilt, you know, how much it rolled her, how difficult it was, the stress that she felt. And I told her that that stress was coming from you telling your children you were going to do one thing and you not following through on that. And it was very interesting. She put in place some of the same tools we're going to talk about tonight. So I asked the question, what grade would you receive if you were talking to your family and your family had to grade you on keeping your word? Would you get an A, B, a C, or D, or E, or F? I'm not going to ask you for it, but I want you to write it down. And I want you to be honest with yourself. If you talk to the top 5 people in your immediate family or top 5 people that are closest to you, what kind of grade would you get? A, B, C, D, or A, B, C, D, F? Yeah. B, you get a B. Anybody else want to share in the chat? If you feel comfortable, it's fine. B. B. Okay. And so B plus. Oh, okay. B plus. And then what's the grade that we would give ourselves if there were a word card or a contract or bill? For how would you grade yourself on keeping your word? You have, let's say you have a contract, you fulfill it. You have a bill to pay, you pay it on time. You give somebody your word. How would you grade yourself? A minus. Okay. Anybody else? How would you grade yourself? A. Okay. Because remember when I said at the beginning, it's the distance between what you intend. You intend to hit 100. But then the question is on the other side of the coin, what is the person's perception? And in a family and a relationship, we can't say we don't care, right? In the world, it's easy to say, I don't care what they think. But at home, that's not something that we can say. And so I can tell you for what I started to do was, I just refused to serve better at my job than I do at home. I just absolutely, positively refused to serve better at my job than I do at home. And I refuse to serve at my business better than I do at home. I just refuse to do that because in order for me to relieve the stress that I was feeling, because I wasn't able to live up to the things that I said that I was going to do, I had to shift my mind to become a person of my word at home first. And then once I became a person of my word at home first, then it was much easier for me to do the things that I'm doing. And I'm telling you, perception is an amazing thing, because once I shifted my thinking and my mind, I felt so much better. It was so much easier because my priority was set. First, my spiritual relationship. Second, my relationship with myself. Third, my relationship with my husband. Fourth, my relationship with my children. And in that order, because them little people gonna leave one day. They're gonna leave and then we'll be home by ourselves. So learning to be a person and putting my family as the place where I kept my word first is what will change the stress factor. And I said it to be a recipe for self-care. So how do you become a person of your word at home? At home, right? So some of us say A, some of us say B. How do you become a person of your word? So here's some commonalities. By creating contracts with yourself, and here is the key, and your family. Because many times we don't communicate to the other person. We just make assumptions. We don't sit down and have a conversation. But a contract is two-sided. So you have a contract in your business or your career. You have a contract as a spouse or a partner. You have a contract as a parent. You have a contract as a family or a member or a friend. Contracts are two-sided. And that means that you have to enter into contracts with the other person. And in order to do that, you have to do the same thing that you do in your business, which is sit down and have a conversation. You have to sit down and have a conversation. And in your mind, if you start to think of running your family like a business, meaning, I think when you're at work, you meet with people at work. You talk with people at work. You create projects with people in your business. You deliver on things in your business. And then, so you go out, you will see sometimes, we will go to work and we speak fantastic to our coworkers. We talk in a very professional and calm way. If you work with children out, you treat the children well. And then you'll see some people who come home and cuss out their own children. You talk in a derogatory way to your wife or to your husband. But when you're at work, it's, oh yes, and the level of kindness, the level of nicety, the level of civility is so high. But then when you come home, somehow something in your mind happens where the people in your life diminish. It's not your intention. Listen, crystal clear. We're not talking about intention. We're talking about expression. What comes out on the other side? And many times it's because you're tired and you're stressed and you're doing phenomenal things in the universe. And you just have not taken the time to reshift your thinking to create contracts at home with your family, and understanding that the same way that you meet, like for example, I remember I do classes on relationships and finance and things like that. And so I was having a workshop, and this man was telling me, I don't see why we need to sit down and meet and talk about finances. I don't see why we need to meet and talk about, I give her money. You know how much this is. You know how much that is. Why do we need to meet? And I said, well, what kind of business do you do? He told me. And I said, well, how often do you meet with your coworkers? This man said, every day. He said, every day. And I said, okay, so that's important for you, but you don't feel that meeting with your spouse is important for you to meet with her once a week, every other day, And so I say that to you to say that it's really critically important that it's the shift in your thinking that happens. It's the shift in our thinking. Because ultimately what you'll find is stress comes from default and duty. And I put that twice. Stress comes from default and duty. When you give your word or commitment that you're going to do something and you do not keep your word, You're stressed at home, you're stressed at work, and you're stressed in your business. All stem from default in duty. So as we get ready to wrap up this conversation, it's 5:12. So the question becomes, now we understand the thinking of how we're going to shift our thinking. The question is, what are some of the things that we do? And I want this to be interactive, to talk about how we can set contracts in our mind. And a contract is just an agreement. It's just an agreement. And I'm gonna give you some examples of some of the things that I use. And when I tell you, I don't give my word a lot. I don't give my word a lot. But when I give my word, I make sure that I keep it at home. So some of the things that I recommend that you consider is time blocking, right? So time blocking, we all know, is when you put appointments on your calendar and then you don't shift those times. So let's say you have young children, and in the morning time, when you're getting your children ready, or in the evening time, when you're spending time with your children or your family, that you time block. Well, time block for empire builders, to me, means no cell phone, means no electronics, means everything is on. Everything is on. So you have an hour in the morning, or 2 hours in the morning, or an hour in the evening, or 2 hours in the evening, where you don't have any electronics, where dinner time is table time is no electronics at the table, not for the children, not for you, not for anybody, no television on. This is the time that you spend with your family. You time block the time. If you're married and you have a regular time block with your spouse, this is a time that you don't negotiate. You set it in your calendar, just like you set everything else in your calendar. 2, put your times and your word on your calendar. And in this way, if you tell somebody that you're going to do something, put it on your calendar. Put it on your calendar. And the way you start to train yourself is in this way. If you say, I'm going to have a response back to you by December 10th, you put on your calendar to have the response back by December 9th. And you start to do that. You do it in your job, you do it in your business, and then you start to do it at home. If you tell your child that you're going to take them to the park on Saturday, if you tell your grandchild that you're going to be there for them to be able to go to the movies on X date, you put it on your calendar. And you make sure if it's on December 10th, on December 9th, the same way that you will call and make sure that meeting is on the next day, that's the way you make sure that you do it with your child. An example for me is this. If I say that I want to take you to, the movies on, I don't know, let's say March 13th, literally I will create a calendar invite on my calendar that says on March 13th, go to the movies. And then I'll put a reminder on there. And I remind myself because I want to be a person of my word. That is where my strength comes, because I want my family to be able to say, she always kept her word. That is an issue of integrity that's important to me. And so putting it on the calendar reminds me of that. Number 3, this is something that I highly recommend. I call it your day, your way. And particularly if you're married. So you pick a day in the month, and it could be in the quarter, just depending. And your spouse picks a day where they have access to you, and within reason, it's their day, their way. It's their day, their way. Because usually in a relationship, if you're the empire builder, right, then you're the person who's always generally moving the most, usually, not always. And so if you create a day where your spouse has, or your significant other has your undivided attention, meaning no telephone, no cell phone, no access to anything, children taken care of, it's your day, your way. That in and of itself will change the game. And how do you do that? You sit down with your mate and you create a contract. Does it have to be written? Some people write it, some people just make it verbal. I highly recommend writing it and signing it because there's something about writing it that makes a big difference. Your day, your way. And I know for my husband and I, our day, our way is every other Monday at 3 o'clock, we get a manicure and pedicure. Every other Monday at 3 o'clock, and you'll literally see it on both of our calendars. So we cut the workday short. Listen, I needed to put it at the beginning of the week. So I wouldn't put something else in front of it because that was my typical deal. You know, it was easy for me to push into the back. So I say, no, can we do it on Mondays? So I get my tick mark on Monday and it's done. But you set it up in a way that works for you and your family. The next tip or tool I would suggest is using your family's birthday in this way. And you can do it in any different shape of scenarios that works for you. But the goal is the same. The goal is the same. The goal is to make a commitment with your family that you're going to do something on a particular day or time, and you keep it. If you can do bi-weekly, make it bi-weekly. If you need every month, make it every month. If you need it every quarter, make it every quarter. I wouldn't make it longer than that. That's the longest I would make it. Whatever the day is that you choose, put it on your calendar and set reminders so that you become a person who keeps your word to your family no matter what. Where you kill yourself at is you say, I'm gonna do it every week. And that ain't gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. Your life is too busy for all of that. You gotta pick a time frame that really works for you. Your family's birthday, here's an example of what that would look like. So you choose the day that your family is born. So for example, in my family, mine happens to work out well. My husband's day is the 1st. He was born September 1st. My oldest son, December 4th. So he's the 4th. My next son, February 5th. So his day is the 5th. I'm the 8th and my daughter's the 21st. So on those particular days, they get to call the shots in this way. If it's your day, and let's say it's the 4th and it's my son's day, he gets to spend an hour. It can be 15 minutes, it could be 30 minutes, whatever you decide, with mommy and daddy by himself on his day. He gets to control the remote on his day. He gets to choose the dinner on his day, on their day. Now the rest of my month is calm. I can run the show. Your need is met and I am done. And I only need to do it 4 days out of the month, 4. That's it. All the other day, everybody's satisfied. Their tank is full. Don't ask me for anything else. I don't say that last part. I don't say that part. I feel that, but I don't say that. I was amazed at how when I found this, oh my goodness, they don't ask me for a million things. They're not calling me for a million things. They literally plan their day and they tell me, Mommy, I want to do this on my day. My husband said, I want to do this on my day. Now I'm gonna tell y'all about Melissa's the 8th. That's what mine is. I want to be by myself. I want to be by myself. Don't nobody call me. Don't ask me for anything. I just want to sleep. The 8th of every month. It's all about me. And I'm just telling you, the pressure on my mind just was really relieved. And then the last thing I would suggest is, if you're married or you have a significant other, is putting an hour into your spouse's mission. And I'm gonna tell you why that's important, because if you're building a business and she's building a business, or she has a mission and you have separate missions, it's more than fine for that to be the case. But usually your spouse is pulling on you to be involved in their mission. I know for me, that's the case. My husband wants me to do 11 million things. I'd be like, oh my God, if this dude asked me to do one more thing, why he can't do it by himself. Don't tell him I said that, but that's the way I'm feeling. So what I did was I decided to set an hour aside just to focus on him and his business and what he's doing. All it takes for me is 1 hour. And what do? I put it on the calendar. I put it on the calendar. And I have the meeting set. And when we take care of what he needs, he doesn't need to ask me for anything. He doesn't need to. And I'm not saying it's bad to ask, but you all know what I mean. You got a million things you're doing. And they want to ask you when you're in the middle of something and you're trying to finish something. And so the control freak in me says, instead of them controlling my life by coming in to ask me what they want, when they want, I'm going to control when they ask. They just don't really understand that I am running the show on that issue, but I put the time on the calendar. And so for me, it's just been a fantastic tool to be able to be married, to be happy. I feel very blessed because I work and I have a job, a business, and 3 small children. And I literally do not feel stressed. I literally do not feel stressed or overwhelmed. But it's because I use these tips and tools. So that's it. That's my contribution. So I wanted to ask you all to set your mind and set your mindset that you get to be a spouse, you get to be a parent, you get to be a relative. I should have said, and you get to be a friend instead of you got to be. You know, it's the get to, got to, because acceptance, gratitude, and appreciation, they're just very, very, very powerful tools. And they relieve the stress in your mind when you shift your mindset to say, oh, okay, I get to be with this person, you know, and I get to be this child's parent, and I get to be this person's daughter or son, and I get to be this person's friend, and I appreciate them and what they're contributing to my world. Those are very powerful tools. And that's it. So, I'm 6 minutes off from being at the end. So with that, I wanted to ask everybody if you could share what are some of the tips and tools that you use?
I would say a huge one for me was definitely putting stuff on the calendar, because when my husband and I first met, we're both deeply involved with our families and we both play like big roles in that.
Mhm.
So it was, trying to nurture the relationship and then trying to nurture our families. And then once we got married, bringing that all together, and then also trying to balance friends. And we were finding we were constantly triple booking, saying, oh, I said this to you, and then forgetting about it. And really, like you said, having the best intentions, but then showing up as somebody who completely forgot about something important. So we have a shared calendar, and anytime, we don't even necessarily have to talk to each other about it. We just throw it up there, and then we'll
Mhm.
discuss it later, and we review it every so often.
That's awesome. A shared calendar. That is great. Do you guys have children yet?
No, oh my gosh, not yet. We're saying like with family and everything and friends, we're trying to figure out how to make time for it. We're already bracing ourselves.
Wait for the party to start, Kat. Wait for the party. It's awesome. But wait for the
Yeah,
party.
we're excited, but we know we have some time to put things in place first.
Great. I'm glad you guys are working on it now. That's a great sign. Anyone else? What are some other things that you all do? Stephanie, you've been married for 30 years. You're probably the guru.
Well, I was gonna let everyone else talk because I feel like I'm at an advantage in that I retired from corporate America in 2016. And I retired to start my company. And then my husband retired 2 years ago in at the beginning of 2020. So we're kind of like at a different stage in our lives, right? And our home was never the norm in that my husband has always been the cook.
Okay.
Always. So I never had to worry about coming home and planning a meal. I didn't even have to think about it. I didn't even tell him what I wanted to eat. I just knew whatever he was going to cook, it was going to be good. And I was grateful.
Wait, everybody take a knee on Stephanie's playbook. Everybody take a knee. Go ahead.
So now that I'm in business, I'm gonna be honest with you. I had an issue with my husband when I started in the last 2 years. Because I think you remember I said the business started growing and I started having employees, right?
Mhm.
Well, I wanted him to do the business with me. And that's not what he wants to do.
Mhm.
And so I had to accept that. And it took a year and a half to accept that this business is Stephanie's business and not Michael's business. And the way that Michael looks at it is, I'm here to do whatever I need to do. He said, you just tell me when you want to eat. Tell me what you want to eat. And I'm here for you. And so I found myself, I wanted someone to bounce ideas off of,
Yeah.
but that's not him. And I had to accept that.
Mhm.
So I had to accept the role that he was going to play in the business. And for me, it appeared that it was small, but for him, that's major.
Mm.
And so I had to accept that. As far as timing outside of and it's just my husband and I in the house.
Right.
So we don't have the kids and whatever. But as far as making sure we have time for each other, I had to say, you know what? We haven't gone out to eat in a month.
Mhm.
Let's go. And I had to start finding places to go. I had to go find the winery. I had to find the restaurant. Because what I noticed, everyone, is that and I'm one of those people, when I throw myself into something, it's 1,010%.
Yes, ma'am.
And I am not stopping until I succeed or far exceed my goal. And so I find myself, like I said, I could find myself in my office all day by myself because I'm an introvert. So I'm okay being an introvert in an office and not having to go do networking. Yay, let's do a Zoom call. So yeah, I had some different challenges that I had to deal with in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Especially after COVID, because I came back into the house, right? Before COVID, I was outside the house.
Mhm.
And also he was working outside the house.
Mhm.
So, we were still in our 32-year pattern of, coming home from work and talking and whatever. And then last year, 2020, COVID changed that. And we had to adjust. Imagine 2 60-year-old people trying to adjust to each other.
But that's encouraging though, because the fact is that it's real. Because seasons are real. Seasons are a part of life. And I think, thank you, Susan, yeah, for joining us. It is a real part of life. And I think that, like I said, acceptance is a powerful tool, and not being bitter about it. That's where we are. My contact information, yes, I'm gonna put it in the chat. Black and Global Business Network.com. I'll put it in there and everybody can reach me there. Anybody else want to chime in with some of the ways that tips and tools that they use? Anybody?
I want to say something, Stephanie, you said that also worked for me is like that radical acceptance of how your partner is for what they are, right? Because something is like, I realized I was putting a lot of should statements on top of like my partner, right? It's like, oh, he should be doing this for me, and this is what our relationship should look like. And instead of just, taking someone as they are and then navigating around that and accepting them for the strengths that they have. And, we like to say, like, we step in for each other where we have to. So I love that you brought that up, because that's like a huge thing for me, is like accepting your partner just as they are.
Yeah.
And Melissa, I want to say, I would be complaining, not complaining, but, mentioning to my friends, Michael he won't come in the office and he won't do this. And they're looking at me like, girl, if you don't be quiet, that man is there cooking for you, has been cooking for 34. What are you complaining about? And so like, I had to step back. Because, I wanted more. I wanted something different. And I didn't understand I didn't understand where he is. And I had to accept where he is.
Right.
Yeah. And you
That's-
opened up the line of communication for that. That's awesome, right? And then that's how you
And we had
also-
issues. I'm not gonna lie. I'll be honest. We had issues. I would be upset for days and not talk for days.
Yeah, it was the same with me too. It all
I
comes
had to
down to
get up.
communication. Mhm.
Yeah.
But isn't it interesting how we have the power to shift our strengths just by the way our acceptance, just by the way you think about it, because they're not going to see the same things the way that we see it, and our way doesn't have to be the right way. And when you ask someone else to do something, you give up 100% control over how it's done. And if how it's done is, I don't want to be involved, that's where we are. So I think that we really, really have to take the time to be honest with ourselves, and you control your own stress, the way that you look at it. So Tar raised her hand, I think. Did I see her hand go up? Did you raise your hand? Raise it, or are you telling me it's over? I'm over time.
No,
I'm sorry.
No, I did not. I hit it by accident, actually. I'm sorry, I chimed in a little later. And I was gonna say something at the end, so you can just keep going.
No, it's fine. I'm 4 minutes over time. I don't want to hold people, but I hope y'all had a great conversation, and I really enjoyed talking about this topic and getting because it is a recipe for self-care. If you set your mind and you shift your thinking from got to get to, and acceptance, appreciation, and gratitude, if you have the basics and the character of the person that you want to be with, and the basics and the character of your children, and the basics, then you really have to be grateful. You really have to be grateful. And so that shifting that thinking is really what will put you in a position to relieve your stress. And it is a recipe for self-care. Thank you. That's it, Tara.
Great, well, thank you, Melissa. If we can have everyone please complete the survey. I'm sure that the workshop was awesome. Melissa, I'm gonna have to watch the recording. The recording will also be sent out to everyone along with the survey again, as well as Melissa's contact information. Again, I'm sure that Lisa went over all of the benefits and the things that MP Services offer. So I won't repeat those, but please visit our website and follow us on social media. And we look forward to our next workshop. If you guys don't have any questions, we'll end the workshop. Are there any questions?
No, just a comment. This was an excellent workshop. And these types of workshops where you get a chance to work on yourself as the entrepreneur, the owner, whatever the case may be. I mean, that's where the rubber hits the road, because you can't escape yourself. And so there's all these introspective things that have come out from these conversations, listening to everybody's experiences that have definitely helped me. So I appreciate it, and please keep them coming. I appreciate these types of things.
Great feedback. Thank you. We appreciate it. We appreciate Melissa. She's an excellent presenter. She also does the global marketing. We're in the process of scheduling, so please look out for that. That's an excellent workshop as well. Any other comments or questions?
Great session. That's all I wanted to say. It was a great session and very timely for me too as well. Thank you.
I was going to say the same thing. This was excellent, very introspective. And like Alan was saying, you can't get away from yourself. So it's important you work on this, right? And it's going to transpire in everywhere else in your life, especially as an entrepreneur.
So true. And we plan to do other workshops similar to these. So as we stated earlier, please just be on the lookout for those. And if you have any suggestions, let us know, and we'll be inviting Melissa back to do another workshop and outside of the global marketing. So just be on the lookout for those. So if there are no more questions or comments, we'll end the workshop.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Night.
Have a good evening.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Thanks, ladies. How did it go?
It was good.
It was good.
Yeah, hold on. I'm trying to
Okay.
stop the recording right now.